Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth part of the Rise of Nationalism in Europe. In the previous video lesson, we discussed about the ideology of liberalism, and in this video lesson, we'll talk about conservatism and the Treaty of Vienna. In this video lesson, the topics that we'll cover are conservatism, Treaty of Vienna, objectives of Treaty of Vienna, provisions of Treaty of Vienna. At first, it's very important to understand the ideology of conservatism. So conservatism comes from the word conservative, and we all are quite familiar of this word conservative. So when we get an idea, when we listen to the word conservatism, we get a clear idea, something related to old traditions, something related to old practices, something traditional, right, or orthodox. So like we use in our day-to-day life, that the person is quite conservative, means who believe in old things. Similarly, here conservatism is an ideology or a political philosophy that stressed the importance of traditions, established institutions, the old institutions, and customs, and they preferred gradual change. Now, change should happen, but the change should be gradual instead of quick change or revolutionary change. So, conservatives believe gradual change. Now, this ideology spread across Europe after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815 in the Battle of Waterloo. It was not easy to defeat Napoleon. Napoleon was so powerful. However, with a combined army of Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, Napoleon was defeated. And thereafter, a spirit of conservatism spread across Europe. Because people started thinking, specifically in France, that there had been several changes. A good administrative rule of Napoleon, a great ruler like Napoleon, ruled for nearly 10 years. And again, the country of France was in a situation of turmoil. So people started thinking, let's go back to the old traditions. At least it was better to have stability. Everyone wants stability. Now, let's understand the traditional institutions to be preserved under conservatism. So as we have already discussed, that conservatism believes in old traditions, and the traditional institutions wants to preserve the traditional institutions. So now the question is, which are the traditional institutions? So the first one, monarchy, right? So monarchy or the kingship. So now an idea that spread that wanted monarchy or kingship established everywhere. The next institution that has to be preserved was the church, right? The power of the church, like in the old regime before 1789. So such institutions, the conservatists or under conservatism had to be preserved. And the next thing, social hierarchy. Like you do remember, there was presence of social hierarchy in the society. So let's see here, clergy, nobility, and commoners, right? First estate, second estate, and the third estate. That was the period before 1789. So somehow the social hierarchy also people wanted, under conservatism. Not to that level, however, yes, with the relaxation, but social hierarchy had to be preserved. The next thing, property, private property, and family. Right? So, very simply, the traditional institutions to be preserved under conservatism are monarchy, church, social hierarchy, property, and family. Now, let's talk more about new conservatism. Most conservatives, however, did not propose a return to the society of pre-revolutionary wars. As I said on the previous slide, conservatism and the conservatists did not want it in the same fashion that it was present before 1789. However, they wanted change, but not quick change. Rather, they realized from the changes initiated by Napoleon that modernization could in fact strengthen traditional institutions like the monarchy. So now the new belief under the new conservatism was that the administrative changes and modernization would strengthen traditional institutions, and it could make state power more effective and stronger. That was under new conservatism. And a modern army, an efficient bureaucracy, the system of civil servants, a dynamic economy, the abolition of feudalism, the feudal system, the system of landlords, and the serfdoms in which the people had to serve, could strengthen the autocratic monarchies of Europe. So, autocracy, as we studied earlier as well, that a rule that is uncontrolled. The monarchies are autocracies. So they take decision in whatever and whichever way they want. Instead of that, under new conservatism, these modernization was included, and the changes had to be incorporated. Now, under this ideology of conservatism and the aftermath of the war, of the defeat of Napoleon. So, as we know, after every war, there is a treaty and agreement. So, similarly, Treaty of Vienna or Vienna Settlement or Vienna Congress. So all these three names that are used for Treaty of Vienna. So Treaty of Vienna, Vienna Congress, or Vienna Settlement. So after the defeat of Napoleon, what would be the geography of Europe that had to be decided? And for all the decisions, Vienna Settlement was arranged, or Vienna Treaty was made. So, as we discussed earlier, in 1815, representatives of the European powers, Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, who had collectively defeated Napoleon, met at Vienna, that is the capital of Austria, to draw up a settlement for Europe, okay, to settle everything in Europe. The Congress, the Vienna Congress or the Treaty of Vienna, was hosted by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Duke Metternich hosted this Treaty of Vienna, or headed this Treaty of Vienna, and you can see the pictures here of the representatives here. The delegates drew up the Treaty of Vienna of 1815 with the object of undoing the changes that had come about in Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. So very simply, Napoleon changed the geography of Europe because he wanted to be the conqueror of Europe, and with his Napoleonic Wars, or with his wars, the geography of Europe had been changed. So the purpose of Treaty of Vienna was simply to keep everything in order, and this Treaty of Vienna worked on the basis of two objectives. The objectives of Treaty of Vienna. There were two objectives, two prime objectives of Treaty of Vienna. First, to undo the changes done by Napoleon. So whatever changes had been done by Napoleon, that had to be undone. And the second thing, establish a new conservative order in Europe. So everywhere it was like to promote conservatism or monarchies or kingship. Now you see here the picture, and this is of Treaty of Vienna. All are trying to find out the settlement, and in fact settled the whole Europe with this Treaty of Vienna or Vienna Congress. Now let's move ahead. Look at the map here. So this is the map of Europe after the Congress of Vienna. The changes that happened after this Treaty of Vienna can be easily evident with this map. So we can see here Netherlands just above France. I'll discuss all in the provisions of Treaty of Vienna. You see Switzerland, you see Bavaria, Prussia, here you see the southern states, Corsica, that is part of France, small states here, Kingdom of the Two Sicilies. So all these were present after Treaty of Vienna. So now let's talk about the provisions of Vienna Settlement, Vienna Congress, or Treaty of Vienna. So as we are very clear that these are the three names that we refer to for the Treaty of Vienna or the settlement that happened. And again, you can see the picture here how the Vienna settlement was accomplished in the city of Vienna. So the first thing you see here, the first provision, what had been decided. So the Bourbon dynasty, which had been deposed during the French Revolution, was restored to power, and France lost the territories it had annexed or captured under Napoleon. So in France, Bourbon dynasty, the same old Bourbon dynasty, right? So that Bourbon dynasty restored to power, got the power, and France lost the territories. Whatever had been captured by Napoleon, they had been taken away from Napoleon. And there was a fear among the European countries regarding the idea and the thought process of France. I mean, because of the acts of Napoleon, that there had been a fear that France will again go ahead with the expansion policy, attack on other countries, and hence, in order to prevent French expansion in future, strong states were set up at the boundaries of France. A series of states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent French expansion in future. And hence, the Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the north. You see here. So here, it's not mentioned here Belgium, it is mentioned Netherlands. So this Netherlands included Belgium. So that was the provision. So the Kingdom of Netherlands, which included Belgium, was set up in the north of France. Other thing, Genoa was added to Piedmont in the south. In the south, Genoa and Piedmont combined together to make a strong state, a strong country on the boundary of France to stop the expansion policy of France. Prussia was given important new territories on its western frontiers, as Prussia was winner. So of course important territories got by Prussia, And I think earlier also I said that Prussia is erstwhile Germany. So new territories on its western frontiers, while Austria was given control of northern Italy. So northern Italy came under the control of Austria. However, something that happened that was special. The German Confederation of 39 states that had been set up by Napoleon was left untouched. So that had not been disturbed, that had been kept in the same way. So the geography for that had not been changed. And in the east, Russia was given part of Poland, while Prussia was given a portion of Saxony. So these were the provisions of Treaty of Vienna or Vienna Congress or provisions of Vienna settlement, which is extremely important to keep in mind, right? So all the key points here related to the Treaty of Vienna. So we discussed today about conservatism, about this political philosophy and Treaty of Vienna. So you have these assignment questions here, and all the assignment questions are based on what we discussed today. The features of new conservatism in 1815, then name the countries who collectively defeated Napoleon. So that is the question for you today. So if you have watched this video, so just mention the name of the countries who defeated Napoleon in the comment section. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.